Welcome to the channel where all you gotta do is weld in this roll cage. So, not really procrastinating, but kinda. Trying to get the shop cleaned up because I got to get around to every little nook and cranny of this thing, and I have to have a place to put stuff while I'm welding it. So I've completed, as far as I'm gonna, that job. So now I'm getting all the parts cleaned up. So this is the front, or the forward bar. It goes in here. It's on the other side. And it's the way these are made is called DOM, drawn over mandrel. And the way it's made is they basically make a pipe by folding over a piece of sheet metal and welding it. But they're not done there, right? After they've done rolling into a pipe shape, then they draw it over a mandrel. So they put a mandrel on the inside of this thing and another on the outside, and they grab a hold of it with a big giant hydraulic thing and they just pull it through. So, and then they do it in stages. So they start out with, you know, thick, small pipe, and keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So what you end up with is a material that has, like, it looks like mill scale on it, but it's actually just oil, like, in all the pores of the material. And if you want to paint it and make it look nice, you gotta, get rid of all that stuff. So anyway, I use this guy. There's probably other tools, but that's what I got, and it works pretty good. And before I did that, there's little scars on the edge here from the bender. So I just dug through the scrap bin and found one that has some marks like I was talking about. Like that there, that there. So this can happen if you don't put enough grease or lube on it. Right there. So typically what I do when I have those little irregularities is I just take this guy here. It's just a normal old flat file. Zoom in over there. See if I can't I'm only taking, a few thousandths of an inch of material off. And that's infinitely better than having a stress concentration on there. This particular piece of equipment works pretty good like this. I'm not sure if they intended it to, but I'm not going to do the whole thing because, this is out of the scrap bin. So I was just using this to get my arc right, but remember how crappy that looked? Now it looks nice. So I've done that to all these pieces before I weld them, because these are going to be very difficult to access once they're welded together and all the sheet metal's on it and stuff. It's going to be hard to get to this. So I want to clean them up now. And then once they're on there, it'll be already cleaned up, and I won't have to fight getting into little nooks and crannies and trying to make it, look decent. So anyway, that's what I did. There was, just a little bit of sanding on the sides. Just take a few minutes at it. It looks really nice. Okay, so I got this one all cleaned up. This is the right side. And welded this guy on. And then I just tacked it in position. So now I'm gonna fit it to the car and tack this little plate onto it. And then everything should be, as long as that looks good, we'll TIG weld all of this all the way around. Lots and lots of welding. I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes worth of welding. Okay, so there's the tacked in doodle daddle. And over this power forward setup. It's muy bueno. Okay, so I got this thing all welded except for this plate, which I cut off already. Don't worry about that. So the problem I have here is when I stick this in, watch this. That shouldn't be like that. So what's happened is put a bunch of heat into this little corner right here, and it made this angle bigger. Like, sucked it in. Compared to the other side, it's, I don't know, it's like 1/4 of an inch different. So now I gotta fix that. What I got here is a machinist device. This is the one I just rebuilt. So basically this is going to support this. This is triangulated, so this is going to be really stiff from here to here. And then I'm just going to crank on this guy until it moves it over about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to mark this right here. That's like where it starts touching. You can see it's starting to bend right there. So I'm going to move it. It needs to move 1/4 of an inch, but I'm touching it over here, and over here is where I want it to move. So probably ought to do this. And the reason I'm putting this in here is because this angle is going to change. So it's going to put a point load over here. So by putting this in there, this thing will be flat against here, and it'll just push, it'll push a concentrated point, stress concentration right there, which this is hard, so it's not a problem. Which means that mark I just made is useless, so I'll put another one right there. And then that looks like it moved about 1/4 of an inch, so I'm not gonna go too far. I'm going to go that far, and then, because it's a 1/4 inch here, not here, so I'm going to go over there, see if it fits, and if it doesn't, I'll continue doing this. Okay, so this thing's all straightened and everything looks, it's got to go down a little bit more like that, but that's not because of this. So I just got this thing tacked a couple places in here, on the bottom, here and here. So it's not going to go anywhere, but I want to make sure everything still fits once I weld the A hoop in there. But that's super stiff now, even though it's just clamped here and it's not welded on inside here. This isn't welded to the A hoop yet. So this is all looking pretty good. Now I'm gonna do the other side, which will be the same boringness. Okay, so I got the second one welded up, still moisty hot, and I did something a little bit different. I didn't weld it here. So if this did pull it in a little bit for whatever reason, that weld isn't there yet. I'll bend it back into submission just like I did the other one. And then yep, so that one's not. And if you don't weld a lot and you don't have like fancy equipment, like I just use old junky vices and jacks and whatever, cardboard boxes to rest my hand on. And I got a couple of that vise, and that vise, and that vise, and then the jack, and you can raise that up and down so you get it at the exact height you want it. But it all helps a little bit. So tomorrow I'll kind of dress these welds up a little bit and then throw a coat of primer on it, weld through primer, and then I'll do the same thing that I did on this guy. I'll fit it up and then MIG that plate on there and then take it off and tack it so it's correct. Okay, so these are all welded up except for this is not, this is just tacked on, and putting a coat of weld through primer on it. And as I was doing that, making a light color primer works really good to find spots that you missed. So, and the nice thing about this primer is you can just take some acetone and it wipes right off. And then I'll tack that up there. Well, not tack it, but weld it up there, and then give it another coat of primer. And then, yeah, same thing with this. I can put primer on it to keep it from getting rusty. And then if it's, you know, a week or a month or a year or whatever, hopefully it won't be, you can just take some acetone and wipe it off. Thanks for watching. If you like this content and want more, subscribe, like, and share.